Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Countdown Cup NA preview. So it's time for the last tournament of the regular season of the Overwatch League 2020. This will be the final one before 2 weeks of regular season play, and then we will have finished the regular season and we will be looking ahead at the playoffs. But we have two tournaments to get through, because it's kind of two tournaments really, isn't it? Because we have APAC and we have North America. Now, as always with these tournament formats, we're going to divide the previews up into the different regions. We will be doing North America in this one, and in the next one, which will be tomorrow, will be APAC. The reason I do North America first is because North America is going to start earlier than APAC does. APAC starts on the Saturday for me, and North America has matches on the Friday. So, talking of those matches, we're going to see, obviously, all the teams in action apart from Boston Uprising, who did not make it through the qualification match that took place at the end of last weekend. And the meta is exactly the same as it was last week. We have no hero pools, so Widowmaker, Mei, Arisa, and Anna are all back in play. And I expect to see much more of the same like we saw last week. The resurgence of Double Barrier with Arisa Sigma. We see a little bit of Widow play. We see a little bit of Mei play depending on the map, but we see a lot of Arisa Sigma. We're probably going to see a lot of Genji because Genji nerfs have not gone through yet as far as I know. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting from this week of tournament play. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first match will be on Friday, August the 7th at 8 PM BST. It's not long now before we stop with BST and we go back to GMT, by the way. But this will be the Vancouver Titans taking on the Atlanta Reign. Vancouver Titans beating the Boston Uprising in that qualification match. They come in as the 12th seed for this tournament. Atlanta Reign are the 5th seed, the highest seed in at this stage. So they got to pick their opponent, and they picked the Vancouver Titans for obvious reasons. Probably the weakest opponent in this entire NA bracket on the paper anyway. Vancouver Titans, they have tried to muster up some performances since their big rejig, but it hasn't really worked for them, has it? Atlanta Reign, they've been steadily improving in my opinion. They've had some roster changes recently with the retirement of Baby Bay and the moving of Kodak to a coaching role. But Edison and Erster are looking good. Gator alongside Hawk are starting to really sort things out, and the support line is fine with Master and Dogman. I would expect them to have too much quality to get for this Vancouver Titans side. Vancouver Titans, the only normal bright spark for this Titans side is Shockwave, who can really pop off at times. We've seen him get really good clips on the Widowmaker just this weekend gone, but I don't expect anything else but a 3-0 victory for the Atlanta Reign. The Titans may be able to take a map off of them, but a 3-0 victory is what I would expect this Reign side to get, and we will see if they attain that. But at 10 PM, we will see the Houston Outlaws take on the Los Angeles Valiant. The Los Angeles Valiant were the 6th seed, so they had the next pick of opponent, and the Houston Outlaws were the 11th seed, so the second lowest opponent in this tournament. And the Valiant, I think, have picked the Houston Outlaws for obvious reasons here. There is a clear weakness in the main tank role for the Houston Outlaws, with Hydration, an ex-DPS player on that main tank. It's still not working quite as well as we'd like it. Very often the Houston Outlaws lose games because there is a difference in the main tank role. The quality is not quite there. It was part of the reason they lost so narrowly to the Dallas Fuel earlier this month. And the Valiant, I believe, have enough to get past this Houston Outlaws side. The Valiant have a great DPS line. KSF has been looking fantastic on the Genji. KSB is a fantastic hit scan player, and they can always bring in Shax if they want a god tier tracer. And then we look at the tank line, with the main tank obviously being Dreamer, off tank being McGravy, and I think they can hang with the Outlaws. Yeah, McGravy may not be as great as the Outlaws off tank Meko, but I think you'll find that Dreamer is much better than Hydration. So I don't think the Houston Outlaws can compete in that department, and then the supports for the Valiant are solid as well. So I really think the Valiant are a decent team. I think they're a mid-table team. I think they're a little bit better than the Houston Outlaws right now. The Outlaws are capable of giving us a good go, I'm not going to lie. They could make this extremely close. They may even nick a win. But I would expect the Valiant to get a 3-1 victory. I'm not going to say it's going to be a sweep, because I don't think the Outlaws deserve that sort of prediction. I think they are better than that. If it had been the Vancouver Titans, I would expect it a sweep. But I would expect a 3-1. I think the Outlaws could push a 3-2. They maybe be able to push the 3-2 win, but I don't think anything outside of that. I wouldn't expect the Outlaws to dominate this match and win it. But we head into the Saturday now, as at midnight we will see the Washington Justice take on the Dallas Fuel. The Dallas Fuel were the 7th seed in this tournament, just behind the Valiant, and the Washington Justice were in the 10th, obviously the next worst after the Houston Outlaws. And, well, this is maybe a little bit harder to call. So, Washington Justice, they are steadily improving. It's taken a while, but we know this Houston Justice team has got a really good selection of players. Tuba's not bad, he's not great, but he's not bad. Stitch we know can be good. Jano we know he can be good as well. Raw, yes, he's a weak link, but when we look at the supports, you know, Arcane God, that's a decent enough support line. It's just the Justice haven't been able to knit things together yet. Dallas Fuel. It's been an interesting week for the Dallas Fuel, hasn't it? They've let go of Decay. There's been some controversy surrounding that, whether Decay was toxic or whether Dallas Fuel, the management was all over the place, but they've also let go of Aero, their head coach. They've let go of Tickety, one of their coaches as well. And so there is the starts of a rebuild going on at the Dallas Fuel, I would have thought. And it's not going to continue now, I wouldn't have thought. I would think that the Dallas Fuel will plod along until the end of the season, and then in the off-season there's going to be a big blow-up at the Dallas Fuel where we see quite a few players leaving and quite a few players come in. But there are big changes going on at the Dallas Fuel. And so this can be a very unsettling time for a team. And so there is a very big possibility that Washington Justice could upset here. And I'm not being down on the Dallas Fuel here. I'm just saying the unsettling nature of losing a head coach and then losing a coach as well. They literally have one coach at time of recording. This is not great. And it can really, really affect a team to have this much instability going into a pretty big tournament. So I think Dallas Fuel are... it's difficult to say. I think Dallas Fuel are a prime team for a slip-up right now, just because of the nature of what's gone on in the past week. I'm surprised at the timing of this for the Dallas Fuel with all this shake-up and all that. I'm surprised it didn't just all happen at the end of the season. They weren't doing atrociously. Yeah, they weren't doing great either. I think the Dallas Fuel hierarchy have had enough. They want the Dallas Fuel to be a good team, and so they've decided to make changes. I understand that, but I think this means that it could, well, be a rough tournament for the Dallas Fuel. I still think the Dallas Fuel have got a lot of quality though. I still think they've got a good support line. I still think they've got a tank line that can match the Washington Justice, especially with how Nate's been playing recently. And then the DPS, well, there's no Decay anymore, but they haven't been playing Decay. They've been playing Onigod and Doha. Now, the issue here is that Doha had a very, very close friendship with Decay. Now, with Decay leaving, is Doha's mental kind of taken a boom from this? That is a worrying thing to point out for the Dallas Fuel, and that's why I worry about this Fuel side going into this match. Am I confident enough to predict a Washington Justice victory over the Dallas Fuel? I don't know. I think it's going to be a close match, but I think it could heavily depend on what happens in the early stages of this match. If the first map, which is Control, which can always be an outlier of a map, it can always have some erroneous results. If Justice managed to dominate that map, I would be seriously worried for the Dallas Fuel in this match. I will predict a 3-1 for the Dallas Fuel, just because I don't know how they're going to react to this coaching change. I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt and say that they won't be too bad, but this could go the other way, and this could go the way that Dallas Fuel, they're just kind of really rocked by this, and they'll be rough for the rest of the season until they get things worked out, and Washington Justice take advantage of this. It wouldn't be a surprise for me for Washington Justice to win this match. Now, I wouldn't have said that a week ago, but I am saying it now because of the unsettled nature of the Dallas Fuel at this point in time. But at 2 AM, we have the Los Angeles Gladiators taking on the Toronto Defiant. The last two seeds, this is Toronto Defiant in the 8th seed and Los Angeles Gladiators in the 9th seed. Well, this entirely depends on what Gladiators we see. Because we've seen some fantastic looks from the Gladiators recently, especially against the Philadelphia Fusion, where they took them darn close. And Philadelphia Fusion, they are bloomin' good right now. Toronto Defiant, they've been plodding along, but it's kind of been rough as well. They were taken really close by the Vancouver Titans. And this is why I think this is going to be a seed that I would predict an upset. And I call it an upset because Toronto are the higher seed. I don't think it's necessarily an upset to say the Gladiators are going to beat the Toronto Defiant. I just think the Gladiators have had a little bit of a rough fixture schedule. Remember, they've had to play the Paris Eternal and the Philadelphia Fusion this month. And so it's kind of rough. You don't expect to win those matches. But I think the Gladiators are going to have too much quality for this Toronto Defiant side. I think they should get a 3-1 victory or so. I think Toronto will take a map, but the Gladiators should be able to get through on this one. But there we go for the fixtures we actually know. Then we have the quarterfinals, which will take place later on the Saturday. At 8 PM, we will see the San Francisco Shock against whoever they pick out of the remaining people left in the competition. At 10 PM, we will see the Paris Eternal, and they will pick and whoever they picked in the remainder of the competition. Obviously, San Francisco Shock are your first seed, Paris Eternal are your second seed. And then at 12 AM, the midnight going into the Sunday, we see Philadelphia Fusion, who are the third seed. They will then be picking out of the rest, and then Florida Mayhem will have to put up with whoever is left, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's someone like the Atlanta Reign at 2 AM on the Sunday. Those should be rather interesting matches. I would expect the Shock, Eternal, and Fusion all to win their matches regardless of opponent. The Mayhem, I think they have the quality to win against any of the opponents in the remainder of the competition out of the 8 I read out earlier. But when they go up against the likes of the Atlanta Reign, I think it could be rather close. So I don't trust the Mayhem to do it, but in my opinion, those 4 seeds, the top 4 seeds in NA, are the 4 strongest teams in NA right now. That's just my personal opinion. I think Florida Mayhem are a very stable team, and I think they deserve that 4th spot. Atlanta Reign, though, they really were clipping at their heels. So an Atlanta Reign Florida Mayhem last quarterfinal could be very interesting. That's all I'm saying. But talking of semi-finals, we move over to the Sunday later on, and at 6 PM on the BST, that'll be the first semi-final between whoever gets through, and then the second semi-final will be at 8 PM, and then we go straight into the grand final for North America at 10 PM on the Sunday. And I mean, your bets could be San Francisco versus Paris. It could be Paris versus Philadelphia. It could be San Francisco versus Philadelphia. There are options here. There are also outsiders that could make it through, like Atlanta Reign and Florida Mayhem. But my bets would be in the final to see one of the 3, San Francisco, Paris, and Philadelphia. 2 of the 3, sorry. San Francisco, Paris, or Philadelphia. But that is what I am predicting. I don't know about you guys. It's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top. Obviously, Paris Eternal are the current holders back in the Summer Showdown, but Shock also have a win to their name back in the May Melee as well. Philadelphia Fusion will be hunting for one of those titles. We currently have a top 3 in North America that is made up of San Francisco, Paris, and Philadelphia, and I'm sure that Philadelphia don't want to be the one of those 3 to be without a title to their name in one of these tournaments. So they're going to be pushing pretty darn hard, and they really had a good showing against Paris in that grand final last time around. And it'll also be, I think, one of the most interesting other aspects of this tournament will be the Dallas Fuel and how they have reacted to their changes that have happened this week. Whether they're going to go into not a crisis, I think that's a poor way to say it, but if they go into a lot of problems and disorganization until the end of the season, and then we see a Dallas Fuel much more powerful next season in 2021, I don't know. Or maybe the Dallas Fuel with a lot of different elements pulled out of them, maybe a little bit of toxicity and decay, maybe the unfavorable coaching style of Aero and Tickety. Maybe with them gone, Dallas Fuel might just turn on a switch and be a lot more powerful than we expect, but I don't know. I think though might be a linchpin in all this, and whether he can keep his mental together with him having such a close friendship with Decay, who is no longer at the Fuel. But it'll be super interesting. I'm going to leave it here for this one. Tomorrow we will take a look at the APAC region and how that could pan out, with Shanghai Dragons getting the bye into the next round. An interesting matchup between the New York Excelsior and the Guangzhou Charge. It's going to be very interesting, that region, I think. I think there's a lot of possibilities for some interesting teams to get to the final. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.